Hi, I've been quilting for over 20 years now, and there are things that I wish that I knew when I first started quilting that as time went by, I finally realized. So I wanted to share 4 of those tips with you today. Now, I did a video with 4 other tips that is linked in the description box below. So after you're finished watching this video, you can hop over to that video and get 4 more tips that any beginning quilter would be helped. Actually, anybody would be helped to know. So let's get to it. Now, the first one that I wanted to share with you is rulers. As quilters, we go to different quilt shops and we quilt with friends, and there's always a new ruler that we can purchase. A ruler to get your 60-degree angles cut just so. A ruler to cut hexes or cut curves. There are all sorts of rulers, but wait, as a beginning quilter, do you really need to spend that much money on all of those rulers that are out there? Now, don't get me wrong, the rulers are fun and they allow us to do some really great things, but they're not necessary when you first start out. So the 2 rulers that I recommend getting that I wish I really knew when I first started quilting were: 1, a long, narrow ruler. This one is 6 inches wide by 24 inches long. I like this ruler not only because it is labeled clearly, it's very easy to read, but I also like it because it is 24 inches long. If you purchase fabric off of the bolt, so you buy 2 yards of fabric, you're going to get it folded in half from selvage to selvage. So it's really about 21, 22 inches wide by however long you purchased. Well, this long, narrow ruler is going to be long enough to span the width of that fabric, so you can make one cut, one time, very easy. Easy measurement, easy usage. It also has lots of lines on it that indicate your 45-degree angle, your 60-degree angle, and your 30-degree angle. Those are angles that are often used in more technical quilts. It's not just for cutting straight lines. You can also use it to cut angles because it's marked for that. Very versatile. The other ruler that I find is really helpful is to have a square ruler. Now, in a second, I'm going to show you how to use the square ruler, or rather why it is important to use a square ruler. But the square ruler really does help. It has a nice diagonal. Everyone will have a nice diagonal going from right top corner to bottom left corner that you can use to place on the diagonal of your blocks, so you can help to center your ruler on your block. These square rulers come in a bunch of different sizes. You can get them as small as 2.5 inches square. Some other ones that I have a 16.5 inch square. I have a 20.5 inch square. Those larger ones may not be necessary initially, but to invest in a 10.5 or a 12.5, that's really going to help you to be able to square up your blocks. You have to square up your blocks in order to make a good quilt top. Okay, 2 rulers you need, your square and your long skinny. And by the way, these rulers are available in my online shop. The link is down below. So the second thing that I want to talk to you guys about today is precuts. Before I start with the positives of precuts, let me explain to you what they are. Now, precuts are packs of fabric that the manufacturers put together. They curate them, and all of the fabrics that are found within the precut pack, they actually go together. They're from the same line and they all coordinate. So what makes it nice is that you don't have to stop and think, okay, well, does this one really go with that one? Well, sure it does. All you have to do in most cases is grab yourself a solid, a blender, and put that together into the quilt with your precuts, and you are guaranteed to have wonderful fabrics that all blend together, and it's a nice unified quilt. There's a wide variety of cuts that are considered precuts. This is a jelly roll. A jelly roll is a 2.5 inch wide strip of fabric by the width of the fabric, which is usually about 42 inches. This one jelly roll by itself is enough to make a small lap size quilt. That's a pretty good amount of fabric right there. So those are jelly rolls. Sometimes you see them called roly-polies. They're all the same. Another pre-cut that you're gonna come across is a layer cake. Now the layer cake is a 10 by 10 inch square. Along with the layer cake, the 10 by 10, you also have what's called a charm pack. And the charm pack is 5 by 5 squares. So if you took the layer, cut it in half vertically, half horizontally, you'd end up with 4 charm packs. This is enough to make a large, when I say large, I mean large, a large throw. Another pre-cut pack that you are going to find frequently is the fat quarter bundle. Again, you have all of your colors that coordinate, whereas your layer cake, your charm pack, your jelly roll will all have the same number of pieces of fabric in them. Your fat quarter bundles can vary. The fat quarters are very versatile. Each piece is cut to measure 18 inches by roughly 21 inches. They're a great piece to purchase. Since we're at the halfway point of this video, if this has been helpful to you, if it's information that you like, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below so that you'll be able to be alerted of the next videos that I release. So the third beginner tip that I wish that I knew when I first started quilting was the importance of squaring up my block. Now in the example that I'm giving here, I have 4 half square triangle blocks that are going to come together to make a simple pinwheel block. What I've done is squared up the first 3. The last one you can see is just a little bit larger on the outer edges than the first 3 are that I've already squared up to make the same size. So what I'll do is go ahead and use my square ruler, and we talked about the square ruler before, but we'll use the square ruler just to make sure that I can get this last block to be the exact same size as the other 3 blocks. Now once that block is made to be the same size as the other 3, you can see that everything is the same size. We can now sew those together, seam them together to create that pinwheel block, and it will be very easy to place that pinwheel then into the larger quilt. If my blocks were a little bit off, then I would see some puckering going on. My edges wouldn't match up. I may not even be able to get that star point in the middle to come together like it really is supposed to. So squaring up your blocks prior to putting them into the larger quilt, or even smaller elements within a block, squaring those up before you put them into the larger block is really going to be helpful. The fourth bit of information that I wish that I learned 20 years ago when I started quilting was that it really doesn't matter what kind of machine you use in order to make a good quilt top. What do I mean by that? If you go to the store, you do any kind of research online, you're going to see a whole laundry list of different brands of machines, and within each brand you're going to see machines that range from mechanical, very basic, to the standard computerized, to touch screen that Wi-Fi's to your phone. There's a huge list of different kinds of machines out there. In order to do good sewing, good piecing, you don't need all the bells and whistles. A simple mechanical machine like this will work just as well for piecing your quilt top as a more advanced machine like this one. Mechanical versus computerized. What I mean by that is that a mechanical machine is going to have this little lever that you push to make it go in reverse. As quilters, we rarely use that reverse button. We don't backstitch. So, not an issue. Changing your stitches, your stitch length, your options here. As quilters, we use a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the time. So we don't really need to change our stitch length, our stitch width. We're not zigzagging or doing any of that stuff. We're not making buttonholes. We don't need it. The big thing that you're gonna find as a difference between these two is going to be your throat space. Here and here. Throat space can range from 5 inches to 12 inches. It goes to personal preference. But if you're on a tight budget, don't feel like you cannot start sewing. You cannot quilt. If you buy a less expensive machine that is mechanical and doesn't have the bells and whistles, buy what you can afford and just enjoy the process. If you guys have any questions about any of the information that I went over today, please drop a comment below below. I would be happy to answer your questions. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, please make sure to subscribe below. Remember that everything that I showed you here in the video is available in my online shop. So the link is going to be below. Go ahead and click on that. You can find rulers, you can find fabric, even sign up for classes if you're local. If you need to watch the first video that I did, other 4 tips that I wish I knew when I was starting to quilt, then you can click on this link right here and it'll take you right there. So until next time, I'll see you later. Happy quilting.